Welcome to Football Game Plan's FCS Kickoff presented by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook here in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. Also, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media accounts, as you see right there in the graphic. And this week, as a majority of the spring practices have ended, we'll take a look at some of the sleeper teams that you want to watch for in 2016. Also, we'll take a look back at the recruiting trail to see how well these teams recruited this past offseason. As a matter of fact, let's get things kicked off with our recruiting roundup, starting in the Missouri Valley Conference.
For the Missouri Valley Football Conference, I'm Anthony Crescenzo.
And I'm Brian Sullivan.
Let's start off with the Bisons, who had the top recruiting class with 28 players coming in, including walk-ons. North Dakota State University has no issues looking for talent. The majority of this class would be scholarship players at 90% of other FCS campuses, and they are joined by 5'11", 180-pound defensive back / linebacker and possibly safety, Moses Nyangaka. Hope I said your name right. From Robbinsdale Cooper High School in Minnesota. And to incoming redshirt quarterback Henry Van Dellen. Welcome to Fargo.
Now let's head to Youngstown State, where after a disappointing 5-6 season and only signing 11 recruits this year, Penguin Nation has managed to find their quarterback of the future in 6'1", 225-pound Arizona Western transfer Trent Husick. He is a dual quarterback threat with his arm and legs, as he completed 52 out of 101 passes for 787 yards, 6 touchdowns, while rushing for 216 yards and 2 touchdowns in his college career. He is also 1 out of 12 national finalists for the Wendy's High School Heisman Award.
Missouri State is pulling 5'11", 180-pound wide receiver Aaron Denson out of Texas. Their Bears would be happy to take his 34-inch vertical.
Western Illinois' new head coach Charlie Fisher had 3 weeks to hire a coaching staff and come up with a recruiting class. So the fact that the Leathernecks found a way to land 5 in-state kids and some very solid overall names is pretty impressive, as they brought in 17 new recruits this year. The jewel of the class has to be 6'4", 285-pound offensive lineman Kyle Sanft, who is a 3-time All-Conference and All-Area selection and was voted a 3-time most valuable offensive lineman. He led the team in pancake blocks for 3 years, and on defense, he had 115 tackles, 3.5 sacks, and an interception combined during his junior and senior year.
Southern Illinois is taking quarterback / defensive tackle, yes, quarterback / defensive tackle, Jakari Harrison. His 6'1", 170-pound frame should make Coconut Creek High School proud to call him an alum.
Now heading to Indiana State, where the Sycamores added 23 new recruits this year. This class reflects head coach Mike Sanford's main goal of replacing a strong defense from last year and getting depth on the offense after losing strong contributors from last year's team. This year's class is highlighted by 6'2", 225-pound linebacker Dakota Short, who was a first-team AP All-State, first-team All-Wabash Valley, and set school records in both career tackles and tackles for losses. Joining him will be prize recruit 6', 220-pound linebacker Jalen Jenkins, who is a 2-time All-CS and was the 2015 CSL South Defensive MVP and was voted to the 2015 Pioneer Press All-Area Defensive Second Team, while recording career totals of 201 tackles, 5 sacks, 13 tackles for losses, 3 forced fumbles, 3 fumbles recoveries, and 2 defensive touchdowns.
South Dakota State isn't messing around by taking defensive back / cornerback 6 foot tall, 180-pound Josh Manchagaya out of Nebraska. I hope I said your name right.
Now let's head to Northern Iowa, where head coach Mike Farley said he couldn't be more pleased with the Panthers' 2016 recruiting class, as they signed 29 recruits this year. The Panthers' biggest concern was the thinness of the team on the defensive backfield, wide receiver, and linebacker position after losing so many players to graduation. But they more than took care of that by signing 6'1", 195-pound Kansas Gatorade Player of the Year Christian Jenkins, who had 141 catches for 2,523 yards and 31 receiving touchdowns in his high school career. They also signed 5'9", 176-pound first-team All-Area and second-team All-State defensive back Isaiah Washington, who had 3 interceptions his senior year. And finally, 6'4", 218-pound, first-team All-State and third-team All-Metro linebacker Markel Williams, who racked up an impressive 130 tackles, 15 for losses, 4 sacks, 8 interceptions, and 2 defensive touchdowns.
South Dakota University needed a cornerback, and they got one in Mark Collins Jr., 5'11", 180 pounds of Kansas.
Now finally to Illinois State, where everything seems to be going to Redbirds' way these days, with back-to-back Missouri Valley Conference titles and playoff appearances in the last 3 out of 4 years, and now it's time to celebrate their recruiting class. Head coach Brock Spack, who needed his team improvement on the offensive and defensive line, hit a couple of home runs this year, starting with 6'4", 265-pound offensive lineman Cole Anderson, who was an All-Area and All-Conference selection, and fellow big man 6'5", 270-pound, second-team All-State and first-team All-League Trey Georgie. Georgie was rated as a 2-star recruit and started every game his junior and senior year. Now turning to the defensive side, where the Redbirds got their guy is 6'5", 255-pound Austin Galindo, who is a multi-sport athlete with his size, frame, and has the potential to become the jewel of the Redbirds defense for years to come.
Thanks, Brian and Anthony. With your Northeast Conference recruiting review here on the FCS Kickoff Show, I'm Matt Chabatari. As 2016's National Signing Day came and went, it brought the NEC coaches one step closer to dethroning Jerry Schmidt's Duquesne Dukes in 2016. One team reigned supreme over all others on the recruiting trail in 2016, and that was none other than Marty Fine's Bryant Bulldogs. By adding 24 commits in 2016, with impact players on both sides of the ball, Coach Fine has to be proud of the work him and his staff did with their class. One of the highlights was running back Alfred DeBoer, listed at 5'9", 190, out of the Blair Academy in New Jersey. The former Rhode Island Gatorade Player of the Year in 2014 looks to replace graduating senior running back Ricardo McCray, who was the NEC's leading rusher in 2015, and DeBoer has the speed and talent to do so for the Bulldogs in 2016. Heading over to the league champs in Duquesne, their 19-man class was highlighted by a transfer from Penn State, aka Linebacker U, in linebacker Gary Wooten. Listed at 6'2", 245 pounds, Wooten hopes to make up for the loss of linebackers Armstead Williams and Sam Martello to graduation. The St. Francis Red Flash hope their 2016 class will be enough to overtake the Duquesne Dukes this year. The talented incoming freshman wide receiver, Cyrus Holder out of the Milford Academy in New York, can help get them there. Holder's combination of size at 6'3" and 195 and speed hopes to stretch the field for quarterback Zach Dreyer and this Red Flash offense. The Wagner Seahawks had 26 commits in their 2016 class, but none are bigger than the addition of junior quarterback transfer A.J. Long from Syracuse. Long looks to help a team that finished last in the NEC a year ago. But first, Long has to win a heated spring quarterback battle with the incumbents in fifth-year senior Chris Andrews and junior Alex Thompson. Robert Morris's 25-man class was a strong class, but linebacker G. Stanley stands above the rest. Listed at 6'2", 190, a 3-star recruit according to 24/7 Sports out of Coral Gables Senior High in Miami, Stanley was a coup for Coach Banaszak's staff, as Stanley had offers from programs around the country but decided to join the Colonials. The Central Connecticut State Blue Jays 2016 class had 19 commits, but none looked to have a greater impact than true freshman quarterback Carlton Aiken Jr. out of Paulsboro, New Jersey. Look for Coach Rosamundo to use him in his speed in some dual quarterback looks with Tavion Paldo in 2016. Mark Knopfrey's Sacred Heart used their 2016 recruiting class to build their offense with the addition of true freshman quarterback Josh Phelan. Phelan, the 6'2", 200-pound quarterback out of NJ Powerhouse Immaculata, looks to replace graduating quarterback R.J. Newell for the Pioneers. Let's send it to Emory with the latest on the recruiting trail from the Big South Conference.
In the Big South Conference, I thought the Liberty Flames had a really good crop of recruits this offseason. Only 2 JUCO prospects in Julio Lozano and Solomon McGinty, and the rest are high school prospects that they brought in. I think they nabbed a really good one in quarterback Rudiger Urick. The 6'4", 190-pound signal call out of Indian Trail, North Carolina, is a tremendous passer with above-average mobility, and ultimately he'll fill out his frame at about 225. And based on where he is now and what he can be, I definitely see a lot of Paxton Lynch, the former Memphis Tiger, in this game. Charleston Southern, the Bucks, I think, continue with their tradition of bringing in talented, athletic offensive linemen Leroy Henry is no different. You see a big guy at 6'2", 320 being constantly able to be put on the move, and he'll always arrive in a bad mood. Now, speaking of tradition, Gardner-Webb has had a nice run with their interior defensive linemen, and I really like the signing of Kamaran Patterson. And here's a guy that's very stout at the point of attack. He has excellent hand usage to shock and disengage from offensive linemen. I think he has a good chance to see the field early as a freshman. You have to love what the Owls of Kennesaw State are doing in their second year of playing football, and they're looking to build on that with a solid group of prospects they've brought in this season. But the headliner, in my opinion, is running back Sam Outlaw. You know I had to go to the backfield, and Outlaw is a guy that can definitely deliver the mail. The 6'1", 205-pound tailback out of Cummins, Georgia, has great power and breakaway speed. Monmouth, in my opinion, has done a tremendous job developing the prospects they've brought in, and this is evident by the number of Hawks we've seen in the NFL as of late. Linebacker Shamar Shanks has a chance to be the next in line when his time comes to go to the NFL draft. Now, what stood out to me the most was his ability to get from point A to point B in an instant. Now, Shanks is a 3-down backer that excels on both ends of defense. The Blue Holes of Presbyterian boasted their defensive line with 3 guys up front, but defensive end Amos Cordialis, I hope I pronounced that name correctly, is the star of this group, 6'4", 220, that plays with great length. And I think Cordialis is a guy that will ultimately fill out to be about 255 and be a very solid, strong side defensive end. We'll be back after this.
Are you ready?
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting can help you reach the next level in the amazing world of broadcast and entertainment media.
I've mentored several interns here at the Covino and Rich Show at SiriusXM, and the ones from CSB always stand out to me. They have a knowledge of the equipment, knowledge of editing, what it's like to be in a studio, and that always eliminates a huge learning curve.
Their professional studios give students a hands-on, learn-by-doing approach using equipment used in actual radio stations and TV studios. Visit our website at gocsb.com or call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Start today.
Welcome back to the FCS Kickoff Show, brought to you by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm Jared Gould with the Patriot League. Last week I discussed Fordham and why I feel they are the team to watch out for in this upcoming 2016 Patriot League year. And I will discuss them in a moment. However, the Raiders of Colgate are still the defending league champions and can't be overlooked. After they reached the NCAA FCS quarterfinals last year, Colgate finished the season ranked 13th in the nation after their loss at Sam Houston State. Quite impressive for the school and the Patriot League. For 2016, Colgate expanded their recruiting horizons well beyond New York, bringing in players from Florida, Indiana, California, and Ohio. Louis Berkowitz, a 6'2", 290-pound O-lineman from St. Thomas Aquinas High in Miami, Florida, highlights the class. From Fishers High in Noblesville, Indiana, Titus Martin, 6'3", 285-pound O-lineman, joins the Raiders. 2 QBs, Carmine Scarfone and Lowell Rothman from Parkland, Florida, and Encino, California, respectively, are going to Hamilton, New York, and the Colgate Raiders. As well as Frank Rica, a 6'3", 195-pound wide receiver from Warren, New Jersey, highlighting the offensive side of this recruiting class. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, Colgate has brought in Michael Kane, a 6'4", 215-pound D-end, who's also a dual threat as a tight end from Bethlehem, PA. And from Canfield, Ohio, they plucked 6'4", 240-pound D-lineman Jacob Asarco. And of course, not to forget yours truly's favorite aspect of football, special teams. Head coach Dan Hunt has nabbed 6'2", 195-pound place kicker Chris Puzzi from Orwigsburg, PA. These 8 players highlight Colgate's 2016 recruiting class. 5 offense, 2 defense, and 1 kicker. Colgate will be playing to defend their Patriot League title with a very young team, overall bringing in 23 new freshman players. Fordham, like I discussed last week, finished second in the Patriot League and ranked 19th in the national polls after they lost at Chattanooga 50-20, which, by the way, is also very impressive for the Patriot League. The league boasts 2 top 25 nationally ranked FCS teams. The league, which is the most academically selective, second only to the Ivy. The Rams returned 18 starters from the 2015 team. This bodes well for new head coach Andrew Briner, who takes the helm of a veteran team in his first head coaching job after spending the past 4 years at Fordham as the OC and the previous 7 years in total under the tutelage of Joe Moorhead. Not as extensive as Colgate's recruiting class, this Fordham team brings in a balanced class of 9 new freshman players, 4 offense, 4 defense, and 1 athlete. I want to focus on the 4 defensive players. Like I mentioned last week, the key to Fordham's 2016 season will be improving their defense. While they finished ranked 18th in the nation in total offense, on defense, the Rams came in at 92nd nationally, this out of 123 FCS teams. Chattanooga hung 50 on them in their season-ending loss. 6'4", 260-pound D lineman Michael Ware from Allison Park, PA, 6'1", 230-pound linebacker Max Roberts from Delaware, Ohio, 6'4", 240-pound D lineman Johnny Pickenich from Harrington Park, New Jersey, and defensive back Jesse Bramble, 6 foot, 180 pounds from Staten Island, New York, round out the 4 new additions to the Fordham Rams defensive squad. These 4 new players need to help improve Fordham's defense. If they do, then not only does Colgate and the Patriot League need to be aware of these 2016 Fordham Rams, but the entire FCS nation needs to keep a watchful eye for these Rams from the Bronx, New York.
Taking a look at the rest of the Patriot League recruiting roundup, Bucknell added Chad Freshnock, a versatile athlete who I would imagine moving to linebacker full-time for the Bisons. His speed and athleticism would be a welcome addition at the second level. Quarterback Kyle Nolan has graduated, and I do think the Georgetown Hoyas added a guy in Isaac Chalet that's cut from the same cloth, a big, strong-arm pocket passer that's able to attack everywhere on the football field. And if he's able to grasp the playbook and the nuance quickly, he may see significant time as a freshman. Losing talented wide receiver Khalif Raymond to graduation, the Holy Cross Crusaders added 2 wide receivers in this recruiting class, but I think Liam Sullivan gives them a taller and bigger option on the perimeter. At 6'2", 190, look for Sullivan to find a home as an inside receiver for the Crusaders. Lafayette invested heavily along the offensive line with 6 recruits, and David Nelson out of Memphis, Tennessee, at 6'7", 280 pounds, I think is the most impressive one. Once the Leopards get him in the weight room, by the time he's a sophomore, he should be pushing for all-conference honors because he's that talented. Lehigh loves big defensive backs, and I really like the game of Riley O'Neal. He's a strong safety that's able to play back in coverage, and this just allows the Mountain Hawks a ton of creativity and flexibility within their base nickel or big nickel looks.
The Davidson Wildcats have a solid recruiting class with running back Keelan Brown from Oakleaf High School in Jacksonville, Florida. At 5'6" and 185 pounds, he's a smaller back with incredible quickness and can find seams in the defense. He capped off a good senior year by winning Oakleaf's Offensive Player of the Year.
The Wildcats have also recruited quarterback Stockton McGuire at a Landmark Christian High School in Douglasville, Georgia. He runs a pro-style offense, and at 6'4" and 180 pounds, he has the physical presence to stand tall in the pocket, but also has the speed to make plays in the open field.
The Valparaiso Crusaders will be welcoming running back Austin Petrie from Stevenson High School in Livonia, Michigan. At 5'10" and 210 pounds, Petrie is a force to be reckoned with. While his speed and strength make him effective with the ball, he's also a strong presence as a blocker.
Defensive tackle Savon Hunt from St. John's College High School in Washington, D.C. is being recruited by 2 Pioneer League schools. Both the Morehead State Eagles and the Butler Bulldogs will be interested in the big guy from D.C.
Marist will be adding big leg and kicker Mateo Zapata from Pope John High School in Sparta, New Jersey. And Campbell will add wide receiver Zach Roderick from Woodbury Forest, Virginia.
Big leg, solid receiver. From Glenbard West High School in Illinois, Drake will be bringing in running back Isaiah Skinner.
The reigning Pioneer League champions, the Dayton Flyers, will be adding to their winning culture by adding 7 state champions to their roster this offseason.
We apologize to the schools we didn't get to: Jacksonville, Stetson, San Diego. The recruiting information was not available to us at this time.
The Colonial Athletic Association is another conference that considers themselves the SEC of the FCS because of their brand of football. And again, a lot of it has to do with the way they're able to recruit throughout the conference. This year, you have the same usual suspects at the top, but I do think the Rhode Island Rams are building something special in Kingston as they brought in an impressive group of prospects. Wide receiver Harold Buckner at 6'3", 213 out of Asa College, in my opinion, has a chance to make a mark early. The Rams have tremendous tailback in Harold Cooper and are adding a talent like Buckner on the perimeter will help alleviate some of the pressure off of Cooper and really open up the offense. The Great Danes of Albany added more beef up front with Ivan Foster, and Foster on film looked like the man amongst boys at times, and it wouldn't surprise me to see him get some significant minutes very early during the season. Delaware nabbed two prospects that I'm very familiar with in defensive end Stephon Woodruff and outside linebacker Cody Reeder. I was able to broadcast their high school championship games, and both players stood out with their play. Now, Woodruff is a very disruptive force along the line of scrimmage, while Reeder was the state rushing champ that'll move over to the defensive side of the football for the Blue Hens full time, and that just speaks to the level of athleticism that he possesses. And I like what I saw on film from quarterback Seth Harold. Elon now has a quarterback that'll probably be in the mix as a redshirt freshman or a sophomore, but he has the talent to give their passing game a much-needed boost. James Madison landed a premier quarterback prospect in Cole Johnson, and Johnson is a really good athlete that is accurate on the move, whether it's going left or right, and still able to be equally as accurate. Look for the 6'5", 195-pound signal caller to fill out his frame as he'll develop his skills as well. I think he's going to be a star for JMU. Now, Maine adds some athleticism to the secondary with Demian Thomas. The former high school running back will make the full move to safety, and it'll give the Black Bears another valuable hang or alley defender in their nickel defense. The Wildcats of New Hampshire are known for bringing in versatile athletes, and this year isn't any different. While a lot of the focus was on the line of scrimmage, keep an eye on defensive back Evan Horn. And Horn has tremendous hands, as evident by his stellar play at wide receiver in high school, but moving him to the defensive back position gives the Wildcats a guy that has ball skills and the mindset of a receiver once the football is in the air. I like the Spiders linebacker TJ Dunn. He has the right mindset to excel at the position. He's a guy that looks to hit, which is exactly what you want to see from a young backer. He's your quintessential Spiders defensive player. I think he'll have an outstanding career. Stony Brook landed defensive end Sam Kamara from Carteret High School in New Jersey. He was well coached by head coach Matt Yasko, and Kamara has a chance to join a very talented Seawolves defensive line. At 6'3", 255, he'll remind some Stony Brook fans of a guy that just left for the NFL draft in Victor Ochi. Towson seems to do a great job in bringing in running back talent from Terrence West to current Tiger runner Darius Victor. Deshaun Wethington is another talented tailback that'll be a great fit in this Tigers running game. He's a one-cut downhill runner who's able to break tackles on a consistent basis. Villanova went heavy on the offensive line signees, and MJ Dumas, in my opinion, has the ability to play either tackle spot. I think he'll likely redshirt, and once he gets acclimated to the Wildcat strength and conditioning program, he'll hit the ground running in 2017. And rounding out the CAA are the William & Mary Tribe. One thing we know about the Tribe is that they will keep talent in the trenches. Defensive end Robert Olachenko, I hope I pronounced that name correctly, is another prospect whose game I was able to broadcast this past season, and he was a legit D1 talent out there on the field. He comes from one great program in Gonzaga Prep in Washington, D.C. to another one in William & Mary. I think he's a candidate to see time very early as a true freshman.
After sharing 2 slices of the Ivy League championship in 2015, Dartmouth took a step to solidify their secondary, receiving a commitment from California Prep standout safety Micah Kroom. Kroom was an early commit to Utah, but decided back in February that he was going to do a little East Coast swing, take it up to New Hampshire, and play for the Big Green. Another one of last year's Ivy League co-champions, the Penn Quakers, are boasting one of the more offense-heavy classes this upcoming season. Quakers are excited to have the hands of New Jersey's own Colton Huber from St. Peter's Prep at wide receiver. Penn also has some defensive help on the way in the form of tackle prospect Ace Escobedo, pretty cool name there, from Regis Jesuit High School in Colorado.
I wish I had that name, but Fred, the other Ivy League co-champion was Harvard, who have once again gathered a strong recruiting class of 10 commits, including 4 linebackers and 2 quarterbacks who will try to replace Ivy passing leader Scott Hoosh. And those prospects are L.J. Northington, a lefty dual threat QB who's been clocked at 4.6 in the 40, and Cade Knox, a 6'4", 200-pound signal caller from Arizona. He's a righty thrower who can take off and run with it as well. And Harvard's arch rival Yale will try to rebound from a 3-4 Ivy season with a group of 20-plus recruits that have been ranked by some as the number 2 class in the FCS. One of Coach Tony Reno's standouts should be the 6'5", 250-pound offensive tackle, Sterling Struther. The 3-star ESPN recruit also received big-time offers from Cal, Utah, and Vanderbilt.
Brown also kept their efforts balanced this season, adding equally to both sides of the ball. Inside linebacker Brendan Pine heads north from IMG Academy in Florida to join the Bears after receiving offers from 4 other schools. Brown also brings in Alex Gorley from South Iredell High School in North Carolina to handle the snap. At 6 feet, 285 pounds, he should be quite an anchor and an impressive addition to the team. Cornell has enlisted the help of Harley Kirsch at QB. The 6'3", 218-pound signal caller from Eastside Catholic High in Bellevue, Washington, also received interest from the University of Wyoming, but made the commitment back in August to bring his pocket passing ability to Ithaca to play for the Big Red.
And down in Princeton, head coach Bob Serace and his staff have put their beautiful minds together. You like what I did there?
Yeah.
They put a solid recruiting class that features 2 defensive linemen and 1 offensive lineman who is an absolute monster. That's 6'6", 290-pound tackle David Garfunkel. He helped his California high school rush for over 2,200 yards during his junior year. And lastly, some media outlets say that Coach Al Bagnoli of Columbia has gathered the number 3 recruiting class in the FCS, which features 6'2", 185-pound quarterback Matt Dame. He's a 3-star pro-style signal caller who threw for 2,758 yards and 27 touchdowns during his senior year. And we'll be back with more of FCS Kickoff right after this.
New York City is the largest market for broadcast media. It's the epicenter for the TV and radio industry. If you ever had a dream of working in the thrilling broadcast world, then make it a reality by going to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. CSB has helped numerous people get a job with hands-on training and a learn-by-doing mentality. You will learn all of the high-tech equipment in the TV and radio studios. From hosting your own radio show, to being a news or sports anchor, operating a camera in the TV studio, or editing audio and video, the choice is yours. Graduates from CSB have gone on to work at some of the major companies in the industry. To get more information, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out at gocsb.com. Your road to success starts here at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The Ohio Valley Conference saw a number of its teams land key transfers from FBS schools, some from Power 5 conferences. We start with the team that finished the title game last season in FCS, the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. JSU fell to North Dakota State in Frisco, Texas, and lost some key starters to graduation. The conference leaders will miss 4 starters in the secondary and 2 linemen in the offensive trenches. JSU helped its cause in the secondary by landing Washington State cornerback Pat Porter. Porter possesses above-average speed and instincts despite being undersized for a college quarterback. The Alabama native from Paul Bryant High School was buried on the depth chart in 2015 when the defensive coordinator who recruited Porter was shown the door at the start of the season. He should be a welcome addition to the secondary room in Jacksonville. The Gamecocks also added tight end transfers Jonathan Curry from Purdue, who came to the Boilermakers as a running back, and B.J. Hammond from Mississippi State. These targets should help quarterback Eli Jenkins when he returns from a torn labrum in his throwing shoulder. Now, the school that I think scored the biggest on signing day is UT Martin, who added a few very valuable pieces for this year and beyond. First, we look at the Skyhawk defense. Defensive lineman Anthony Brown joined the Arkansas Razorbacks as a 6'3", 235-pound edge rusher. Brown decided to leave Arkansas when head coach Brett Bielema had him on the bench all season. Now the Razorbacks' loss is UT Martin's gain. Brown, now a more formidable 270 pounds, should help bolster the defensive front and wreak havoc on opposing offenses. The Skyhawks also got a veteran signal caller when Marshall quarterback Gunnar Holcomb left campus with his degree and immediate eligibility as a redshirt with 1 year of college ball left. Marshall coaches describe Holcomb as unselfish with a team-first mentality. Holcomb won't have academics to focus on. He can focus on being a student in the film room and on the practice field. The playing time that he wasn't allowed at Marshall with 4 QBs fighting for time last year should be plentiful in Martin as the Skyhawks look to climb up the ranks and challenge Jacksonville State for the Ohio Valley Conference's top squad.
Taking a look at the rest of the Ohio Valley Conference, Eastern Illinois grabbed an outstanding quarterback prospect in Scott Gilkey Jr. at 6'4", 220. Gilkey is also an athletic guy that can do some damage on the ground, but he's a well-accomplished and talented passer who could become the next star out of this proud program. Eastern Kentucky brought in an impressive defensive end recruit in Connor Foos, and Foos is a guy on film who's very strong at the point of attack and is also a very polished player coming out of the high school ranks. I think with his game and frame, he's definitely an early playing time type candidate as a freshman. I also like what's on film from Southeast Missouri State's linebacker recruit Zach Hill, who is a Mike backer that has some above average ability getting sideline to sideline and should become a solid player for the Red Hawks. Clay Davis is what you would classify as a whip or rover, which is essentially a safety linebacker type tweener. Either way, the Golden Eagles of Tennessee Tech get themselves a tremendous player. I think Tyree Gray out of Alexander City, Alabama is, at least in my opinion, the most impressive wide receiver recruit out of the 7 the Racers of Murray State added to their squad this year. The 5'10", 170-pound receiver is extremely dangerous after the catch. Tennessee State is known for their great talent in the trenches, and adding JUCO transfer defensive tackle Terrence Summers will help the Tigers maintain that status. Summers is both quick off the ball and powerful at the point and should star from day one. And finally, Austin Peay added 2 linebackers with the same name, Tyler Reed, and Reed, spelled R-E-E-D, out of Cartersville, Georgia, is your classic thumper on the inside and has really good instincts for the position. And Reed, R-E-I-D, out of Olowatala, Tennessee, is an outside backer that shows excellent closing speed to the football and to the quarterback and has the above average range to drop back in coverage.
I'm Gene Clemens, coming to you from Tampa, Florida with your MEAC recruiting report. The race for first was tight, and the race for first in recruiting is nothing less. That being said, they may not be on top of the standings right now, but in my opinion, the best recruiting class of the MEAC resides in Tallahassee with the Florida A&M Rattlers. It seems their Seminole counterparts are not the only ones who cleaned up during the signing period this winter. It's clear the vision for FAMU is that they want to become more athletic and multiple on defense. Well, they've done just that this signing season. 11 defenders who play either defensive end, linebacker, or defensive back and are 6'1" and over and between 200 and 230 pounds have signed on to join the Rattlers in their endeavor. But the jewel of their draft is tight end offensive lineman Cole Villanueva from Northeast High School in St. Petersburg, Florida. At 6'7", 290 pounds, he possesses a size athleticism combination that reminds me of Arkansas tight end and Eagles left tackle Jason Peters. Hopefully the plan is to redshirt him to improve his strength and transition him to full-time position of offensive tackle. He should be one to look out for in the coming years. Recruiting was strong throughout the conference, and many other teams could have laid claim to the best class in the conference. Bethune-Cookman University continues to stockpile offensive line talent as they added a mammoth out of Plant City High School, Jamal Savage, who, depending on how his conditioning holds up at the next level, may have a chance to contribute immediately, allowing the Wildcats to take advantage of his road grader mentality. Delaware State added a junior college quarterback from California, San Bernardino Junior College, Daniel Epperson. He will have a chance to step into the mix, and I believe he will ultimately win the job in the fall. Hampton added a lot of O-line depth to their team, but they also added Tylon Patterson from Lithonia High School in Georgia, who is long and athletic, and he can prove to be a red zone monster with the proper seasoning. At 6'7", he's still a little bit raw. Look for him to 6'5", look for him to redshirt and then bust onto the scene in 2017. Howard added a physical freak from Harrell's Christian Academy in North Carolina. Marcellos Allison is currently a man without a position. He lined up everywhere in high school. I believe that in the end, he will settle at outside linebacker, where his athleticism can be exploited fully. Morgan State stole a quality offensive line prospect from some FBS schools who were really high on him. They were able to convince Elijah Hunter to come to the FCS and the rich history of the HBCU community. The Friendship Collegiate Academy road grader should be in the mix early for playing time. Kenneth Kirby, a left tackle from Fork Union Military Academy, is an intriguing signing for Norfolk State because not only is he 1 year removed from high school, but he has already competed against college-level competition. Kirby, along with a few of his former teammates, will look to hit the ground running when they hit the ground at Norfolk State. North Carolina A&T State, in my opinion, grabbed the jewel of the recruiting season in the MEAC. Quarterback Kentrey Greer was a young man coveted by many universities, including FBS schools, who may have looked at him at another position. But make no mistake about it, this young man from South Charleston High School in West Virginia is a home run hitter from the QB position. And his abilities with his arm and his feet are going to make the conference champs that much more formidable for the coming years. North Carolina Central was knocking on the door of a conference championship last season. This season, they will look to knock that door down, and Tavon Lofties, an athlete from Fork Union, may be just the cog they need to make everything work. This tight end, defensive end is equally productive on both sides of the ball, and I'm sure the offense and defensive staffs will have arguments over who will land him this fall. Savannah State University was able to sign the most productive back in recent high school football history. Deshaun Smith from Nature Coast High School led the nation in rushing and touchdowns. It is still a mystery to me why he was not grabbed up by FBS schools, but the truth is that he will have an opportunity to be an immediate impact player for a team that can use more playmakers. South Carolina State University have added a defensive back with size, athleticism, and phenomenal ball skills. DeMontrez Burrows out of North Mecklenburg High School split time at wide receiver and defensive back, but projects well on the defensive side of the ball, where defenses are always looking for playmakers. He has an opportunity to be an immediate impact guy and should be someone that South Carolina State looks to for the next few years of their life. That takes a look at the MEAC from Tampa, Florida. I'm Gene Clemens, footballgameplan.com.
Now it's time to take a look at the recruiting class in the Southwest Athletic Conference. Starting off with Alabama A&M, we're going to take a look at running back Jordan Bentley, and this is a guy that's out of Huntsville, Alabama. He brings size along with a slashing running style to Alabama A&M. He's going to really help their rushing attack. 6 feet, 200 pounds, Class 5A Offensive Player of the Year. Almost 6,000 yards rushing in his career, along with 104 touchdowns. He's definitely going to improve Alabama A&M's rushing attack. Moving on to Alcorn State, we're going to take a look at defensive lineman Kwanzaa Jackson, 6'3", 240 pounds. He's expected to add to the team total 46 sacks from last year. Next up, you got Alabama State, and we're going to look at Deron Johnson, the 6 feet, 220-pound linebacker. He's expected to play alongside 2015 Defensive Player of the Year, Courtney Berry. Definitely going to be a nice duo, a run and hit linebackers. Jackson State has a guy named Jawan Adams, a quarterback. He's a dual threat quarterback. He could run the read option. He has a big arm. He could place the ball down the field. He's going to give Jackson State a lot of big time, exciting plays, and they definitely have a lot to look forward to with him coming to campus. Mississippi Valley State has a receiver out of Tampa, Florida, Javon O'Neal. He's a wide receiver, a playmaker in the return game as well, and he likes to catch the deep ball. He'll definitely make a lot of plays for Mississippi Valley State. Prairie View A&M quarterback Nico Hollins, 6'5", 220 pounds, ideal size already, NFL size, but he throws the ball very well on the move. He's a guy that will be able to create when the play breaks down. Also, he'll definitely compete for a starting spot for Prairie View A&M. Moving on to Southern, you got Lorenzo Davis. He's an outside linebacker, 6'5", 220 pounds. He's a transfer from Los Angeles Valley College, and this is a guy that's relentless off the edge. He'll definitely increase their sack totals. Texas Southern corner, A.J. Matthews. He's a cover corner at 6 feet, 185 pounds. He'll be able to add to their coverage and go against some of the top receivers in the SWAC conference as a freshman. Expect him to play right away. Arkansas Pine Bluff tight end Jalen Collins at 6'3", 220 pounds. He's a very versatile tight end. He's a guy that you could play in line, you could play him in the slot, and you could even have him as a wing back as well. He's a transfer from Contra Costa Community College. And topping it off for the SWAC draft class, recruiting class, is going to be Grambling. They have 3 FBS transfers. Texas Tech safety Derek Dixon, along with quarterback from out of Ole Miss, Devontae Kincaid. He's going to be throwing to Texas wide receiver Montrell Alexander, a 6'3", 200-pound receiver. He's a big-time playmaker. High expectations going into Texas. Unfortunately, an off-the-field issue kept him from being able to play for Texas. That's been cleared, so now he's going to play for Grambling, and he's a playmaker that will really benefit from working alongside Devontae Kincaid, the fellow FBS transfer. I'm Teron Davenport, and that is your whip around the SWAC Conference recruiting class.
I'm Chris James, bringing you the recruiting roundup for the Southern Conference. The Chattanooga Mocs went 9-4 overall, 6-1 in conference play, then made the FCS playoffs, losing 41-35 to eventual runner-up Jacksonville State. They were led by quarterback Jacob Huseman, the 2015 Conference Player of the Year. My player to watch from the 2016 recruiting class is Zach Weatherly, a dual-threat quarterback out of Nashville, Tennessee. He should do well to compete for the vacancy left by Huseman. The Mocs had my top class, which for my money is one of the best in all of FCS play. Getting a player to watch out of Christ Presbyterian Academy in Weatherly wasn't enough, so they snagged his top pass catcher in Joseph Richard. Chattanooga also brought on transfer talent from multiple sources. 2 JC transfers out of Mississippi in defensive tackles Jalen Harvey and Derek Mahaffey. They also had an FCS transfer from the Richmond Spiders in athlete Ben Schreider. They rounded out the transfer train with an FBS transfer from the Missouri Tigers and wide receiver Thomas Richard. Thomas will be reunited with his younger brother Joseph with this transfer. The Citadel Bulldogs went 9-4 overall and 6-1 in conference play and also made the FCS playoffs, losing 14-6 in the second round to Charleston Southern. My player to watch is defensive end Denzel Wright from Loganville, Georgia. Wright will help with the loss of all-conference first-teamer defensive lineman Mitchell Jeter. The Western Carolina Catamounts went 7-4 overall, 5-2 in conference play to come in third in the Southern Conference in 2015. My player to watch in the recruiting class from 2016 is Lavelle Ellerby, a wide receiver with great deep threat speed from Rockingham, North Carolina. The Sanford Bulldogs finished 6-5 overall and 3-4 in conference play last year. My player to watch is linebacker Aaron Atkinson from Hazel Green, Alabama. Atkinson will help with the loss of all-conference first-teamer Justin Cooper. The Wofford Terriers went 5-6 overall, 3-4 during conference play last season. My player to watch is defensive back Darren Pascal from Atlanta, Georgia. He has the ability to play corner or high as free safety if necessary. The Mercer Bears finished 5-6 overall, 2-5 in conference play in 2015. My player to watch is offensive lineman Jake Flath out of Tampa Bay area powerhouse Lakeland High School. Flath enrolled in the spring to get a jump start on the collegiate experience, which should help for his 2016 campaign. The Furman Paladins went 4-7 overall, 2-5 in 2015. My player to watch from the 2016 recruiting class is center Jacob Conrad from Green Cove Spring, Florida. Conrad's presence should soften the loss of first-team all-conference guard Joe Turner. The VMI Keydets went 2-9 overall, 1-6 in conference play during the 2015 season. The player to watch is wide receiver Rohan Martin from Stafford, Virginia. Martin is an absolute burner that should open things up for returning QB Al Cobb. And rounding up the class from the Southern Conference is the East Tennessee State Bucks, who signed 23 prospects in their 2016 recruiting class. My player to watch is local product running back Elijah Mathis from Johnson City, Tennessee. Mathis should help with a very productive running game.
Let's take a peek at, depending on who you ask, the SEC of the FCS, the Southland Conference. And the reason why the Southland is so tough year after year is due to their excellent recruiting that's done throughout the conference. And honestly, you can make a case for McNeese State and also Lamar for having the best class. But in my opinion, Stephen F. Austin's crop really stands out to me. A healthy 24-man class, 6 of which are JUCO transfers. That really increases the speed and athleticism across the board on both sides of the ball. JUCO transfer Kajana Amos out of Navarro Junior College, a very good program, should have an immediate impact from day one. The Lumberjacks spread attack already puts a ton of pressure on you defensively, but when they are the most deadly, is when they have a game breaker in the backfield. And I think Amos is that type of tailback. The 5'11", 200-pound runner with great balance, and he shows good speed and acceleration to, through, and out of the hole. I think a guy like Amos can really open up this Lumberjack offense. I'm a big fan of Abilene Christian's defensive tackle McCoy Pohl at 6'1", 280. Pohl is able to win with leverage and also has really good strength for a high school prospect that's coming into college. He's only going to get stronger, and the sky's the limit for him. And with the way he's able to get off blocks, look for him to be a problem in the Southland Conference. Central Arkansas's wide receiver Braden Despain fits the mold of what they like at the position, a big physical presence with the ability to make the contested catch and pull away from defenders. Despain will remind some of another former Bear in wide receiver Desmond Lewis. The Huskies of Houston Baptist landed a stud JUCO prospect in Andrew Kirby out of Euless, Texas, coming from Tyler Junior College, another outstanding JUCO program. The Mammoth 6'4", 340-pound tackle punishes defenders and will definitely be a day one impact player for HBU. He helps shore up the Huskies' offensive line up front. Going is super athletic linebacker Mike Tavares, who at times returned kicks for the Cardinals, but in comes Markel Cooks. Now, Cooks is cut from the same cloth as Tavares, and he can play inside or outside backer. He's very comfortable dropping back in the coverage or rushing the passer. He'll be a guy that'll be a freshman of influence in 2016, a tremendous talent. And I do think Lamar is going to be a force this year in the conference. They have Cade Harrington back at tailback, a really good defensive front seven. And adding to that will be JUCO transfer DeMontre Lewis. And Lewis can play with his hand in the dirt or as a stand-up edge rusher. And either way, he's going to give the Cardinals defense a ton of options with their personnel. Now, New McNeese State head coach Lance Guidry brought in an impressive haul for his first recruiting class with a heavy emphasis on the offensive side of the ball. So let's talk defense with cornerback Kobe Burton. And I'm going to be always able to gamble. I'm going to always gamble, on cornerbacks with ball skills. And Burton not only shows tremendous ball skills, but also has impressive technique and instincts. He'll be a fine corner down the line for the Cowboys. And the last name Fourcade carries some weight with it in South Louisiana, and quarterback Chase Fourcade, the nephew of former New Orleans Saints star quarterback John Fourcade, has a chance to etch his name in Louisiana folklore. The former Rummel High School star had offers from FBS programs, but chose the Colonels of Nicholls State, and instantly you see he's going to be something special. He has a certain moxie about him that allows him to make plays in and out of the structure of the play. He has an above-average arm to attack anywhere on the field, as well as top-notch field vision for the position. The Demons of Northwestern State landed an excellent tight end prospect in Ethan Smith, and this is a good fit in my opinion because of how the Demons utilize their tight ends. It's more inline than you see nowadays from college football teams, and Smith is a guy that can more than hold his own in the blocking department. I think he'll be fine there, but where he's going to have a chance to stand out is as a receiver. Smith has soft hands, so he's unafraid of the chaos over the middle of the field. Sam Houston State is another program that you can make a case for having the best class in the Southland. I really like quarterback Cody Brewer. You talk about looking the part. He's 6'6", 225 out of Corpus Christi, Texas. He has great size and already has a tremendous skill set to go along with it. And I'm a big fan of how he's able to attack both intermediate and deep down the field with accuracy. And to be completely honest, I do think the Bearcats landed the next great quarterback to come out of the FCS. And finally, the Southeastern Louisiana Lions hit the recruiting trail hard this offseason, bringing in a total of 32 signees, with 18 of them being JUCO players. Offensive lineman Chris Phillips, to me, should have an instant impact. The Lions are trying to retool their offensive line, and a guy like Phillips at 6'5", 350 pounds out of Northwest Mississippi Community College can step in right away. He has a unique blend of both power and athleticism, so much so I think he can excel at either tackle spot.
Hi, I'm Dan Evans.
And I'm Chris Thomas, and welcome to the 2016 Big Sky Conference Football Preview. We got a lot of good players and a lot of talented teams to talk about. So Dan, why don't you get us started?
All right, we're going to start off in the lower end of the spectrum right now. First team I'm going to talk to you about is Sacramento State Hornets. All right, 1-7 in the conference and 2-9 overall. They were tied for last. The addition of three-star, highly recruited defensive lineman Tyler Hawkins from Palm Springs, California, should help replenish the defensive line, which graduated 4 seniors last year. He's 6'3", 225. He runs the 40 and 4.65. He's got speed as well, so you know that he's going to help improve that defense. Next up on the list right here, UC Davis Aggies. Okay, 2-6 in the conference and 2-9 overall. The top recruit for the Aggies is a 3-star wide receiver, Chris Vaughn, 6'1", 190 from Redlands, California. He's got soft hands, the ability to get behind the defense, and his pass-catching abilities should help the Aggies' receiving corps improve next year. Next up, Montana State Bobcats. He's 3-5. They're 3-5 in the conference, and they were 5-6 overall. Now their 3-star running back, Anthony Pegways from Frisco, Texas, isn't a big fella at 5'8", 185, but he's got great speed. He runs the 40 and 4.4, and he should help that Bobcats running game improve next year. What have you got on that lower end?
Well, tied for last in the conference were the Idaho State Bengals. They were just 2-9 overall, 1-7 in the conference. They really struggled on offense, where they scored just 22 points a game. So I'm going to highlight 2 recruits that I feel can really help them on the offensive side of the ball. I'm talking about offensive lineman Porter Thomas and wide receiver Taylor Pearson. Look for both of these recruits to bring the Idaho State Bengals out of the bottom of the conference in 2016. Let's also touch on the Cal Poly Mustangs, who were 4-7 overall, just 3-5 in the conference. So they have a little bit of a twist in their recruiting class in 2016. They're bringing in 3 out of their top 5 recruits at the running back position. So you're going to see a lot of depth and versatility there, and that strategy could prove effective in 2016.
All right, let's set up the middle of the pack at this point. Eastern Washington Eagles, 5-3 in the conference, 6-5 overall. Their top recruit, quarterback Eric Barrier from La Brea, California. He's a gifted all-around talent, accounted for 130 career touchdowns when he was in high school. He should make a difference and help that team. Next up, the Weber State Wildcats. Now, they were also 5-3 in the conference and 6-5 overall. Number 1 recruit, Dakota Miller. He's a quarterback with great athletic ability and speed. Previously committed to the University of Nevada, and things fell through. So guess what? He's a Wildcat now, and they're very happy because he's got a bright future. What have you got in that middle of the pack area?
Well, in the middle of the pack, I want to head out to Colorado, specifically northern Colorado, where the Bears finished 8th in the conference. They were 6-5 overall, but they were just 3-5 in the conference. So, in my opinion, head coach and former Bear, Ernest Collins Jr., is going to really benefit from having an athlete like Marquise Davis on his team. 5'10", 170 pounds, who's a little undersized, but he can play both cornerback and running back. So I think his versatility could get them into the top of the conference next year. Let's also head out to North Dakota, where the Fighting Hawks were 7-4, 5-3 in the conference, and they're bringing in a big old tight end, 6'4", 280 pounds, Alex Cloyd. He's a beast. He's going to be able to do wonders for this offense, and he's going to be able to, in my opinion, bring them into the top of the conference as well, should he live up to his potential.
Well, that gets me right to where I'm heading, top of the heap. Northern Arizona Lumberjacks, 5-3 in the conference, although they were tied with Eastern Washington and Weber State. They were 7-4 overall. Lumberjacks will be looking forward to the arrival of highly recruited offensive lineman Stephen Bailey. He's homegrown from Litchfield, Arizona. He's a big guy, 6'3", 305. He's got size and speed and versatility for that matter. He plays guard or center. He's going to protect Case Cookus, who threw for 37 touchdowns and over 3,000 yards next year. So it's going to be very important to have him there. Next up, Southern Utah Thunderbirds, 7-1 in the conference. Big Sky Conference champs, in fact, 8-4 overall. Their top recruit, he's a 3-star free safety, Cooper Smith from Salem, Utah. Now he's 6'4", 195, and he's got that size and length you like to take on big receivers, which is going to be key if they want to have a chance to repeat as conference champs. What have you got in that upper echelon here?
Well, my two teams here, let's first talk about the Montana Grizzlies. Third in the conference, 8-5 overall, 6-2 in the conference, so really strong play there. I want to touch on their top recruit, who's a wide receiver. 6'4", 190 pounds, Sammy Akeem. He's from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. He can really, really catch the football. So I think he can add a lot to their offense next season. And my pick to win the Big Sky in 2016, the Portland State Vikings, coming off their best D1 season in school history. 9-3 overall, 6-2 in the conference, second place, and with the addition of offensive lineman Troy Bacon at 6'4", 295, also a transfer from Boise State, so he has big game experience. My pick to win the Big Sky.
Well, they've got a great recruiting class. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a run for the conference champs, but Southern Utah Thunderbirds are going to have something to say about that. It's going to be an exciting season nonetheless. A lot of exciting teams and new recruits that are going to make it a really great season to watch.
I agree, Dan, and watch out for those Montana Grizzlies too. For your 2016 Big Sky Conference football preview, I'm Chris Thomas.
And I'm Dan Evans.
So that's a wrap for our recruiting roundup here on the FCS Kickoff. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Make sure you stay connected with us on our social media pages for any news, notes, tidbits coming from the FCS.